out, then she goes screaming, flying, tag of lights at the lights. Very nice, you know, fight, take a side, with a side, baby, shows in the escapade. Plenty arcade, pixelated party, lesson, they unafraid. Karaoke screams, singing themes, heart and sleeves, and
Good afternoon and welcome, my nerds. It is I, your friendly neighborhood OGGM, broadcasting live from Site B. It is about 12 noon on this, the 11th day of December, 2024. The weather is weird. We're having what's known as earthquake weather in California. And I am honored to have a guest, because we know how well I do with guests. This is Joel from Lone Wolf Fist, Acid&Steel. He's got a Kickstarter on that's already surpassed its beginning pledge. So he's here to talk about Lone Wolf Fist, Acid&Steel, and Chang Shang Lone Wolf Fist core rule. So let's start. Welcome, Joel. Thank you for taking time out of your day to hang out with us here at the OGGM Adventures. Who are you and how did you start role-playing? What is your secret role-playing origin story?
Oh man, you gotta get my secret origin story. My embarrassing origin story right out of the gate, huh? This is a great first note. All right. Well, I was a really antisocial, like shut-in homeschool kid, and the way I learned about socializing was by playing Dungeons and Dragons 3rd Edition and Vampire the Masquerade as a LARP at the local college. So pretty much the most humiliating way you can enter into the space. Textbook like autistic nerd. Who had trouble socializing. So
everybody.
Everybody. I have the origin story.
Yeah. Some of us still have trouble socializing. You have created 2 games. Chang Shang Lone Wolf Fist, which is on drive-thru for $15 or hardcover $40. And we are kickstarting Lone Wolf Fist Acids&Steel. So tell us about Lone Wolf's Acid&Steel and the Chang Shang role-playing system. What is it? Where did it come from?
Oh man, okay. Yeah, it's got some interesting DNA in it too. So goodness gracious, where to start on this one? All right. So this is actually a successor to Weapons of the Gods, which is an RPG that was based on a manhwa, a Chinese comic book, which was like this wuxia action kind of thing, kung fu, magical weapons, ancient Taoist super attacks, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that one was done by, I think it was EOS Publishing. They couldn't secure the rights, as I recall, for a 2nd edition. So they took their wuxia action system and they made Legends of the Wulin, which was something that they had the full IP proprietary rights to. David Ramirez was the guy they tapped to do the setting for that, and he brought in Eric Tinbreck and Jerry Skold to redo that system, which is it's a D10 based system where you match sets. It's kind of a descendant of the ORE, the one roll engine system, if you're familiar with that. That's a system that is it's a really cool and unusual system, and it's got a lot of strong adherence. But those guys redid the wuxia action system, and they did some really cool stuff with it. And many moons ago, whenever they were looking to when EOS Press still existed, I think they went out of business. But when EOS Press still did exist, they tapped David again to do like a lighter version of the system, like a Legends of the Wulin Light. And I just kind of shot my shot and sent him an email, and he was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And the design I did to revamp Legends of the Wulin into something that was like cleaner and played faster wound up turning into the system for Chang Shang Lone Wolf Fist. And it's like the core system for a lot of stuff I want to do. But like right now, Lone Wolf Fist is that kind of system, which is a D10 matching system, the successor to the wuxia action system, but doing like a Fist to the North Star-esque setting where you're like wandering kung fu heroes in the post-apocalypse. And I expanded the rules a little bit. It was a little bit like dude versus dude. There's some systems that are kind of designed to be like, one universal archetype of character versus other universal archetype of character. And I feel like role-playing games are kind of bigger than that whenever I run them. So I added in rules for monsters, so battling big monsters. And I added in rules for interacting with the environment that were a little deeper and richer. So I basically just took like what they had, which was more or less like a wuxia dueling game, and expanded it out into like this bigger kind of classic, I guess, RPG sort of thing where you're wandering around fighting monsters, doing heroic deeds, etc., etc. And that's the core book. And then in Acid and Steel, I'm expanding the setting and the character archetypes. Like right now, there's mostly just kung fu action dude, the one of the lone wolf fists. Well, I'm expanding it to 2 different archetypes, which are like these artificial heroes, these robot guys, and then the damned heroes who draw their power from these titanic fallen god demon monsters called the Ashura. And then I've got setting for both of those. Like I've got the settings Hell, which I call Naraka, which is big Chinese style Dian underworld. And then I've also got Bab el Kamanar, which is like the robot, like orbiting Dyson sphere, like steampunk world that you can expand your games with. So that's what we're kickstarting. I could go on, but I think
please do. You're, a lot of us probably aren't familiar with the system you're talking about because it's the first I've heard of it. So yes, please, please educate us about this system and your plans for Acid and Steel.
Well, like I said, it's got quite a good pedigree in terms of like its design. I didn't pioneer a lot of the really cool ideas. Like the central mechanic is the effort pool, which is a pool of d10s that you roll, and it creates a base of actions for your whole turn. So like in most systems, you'll have an initiative, and then on your turn, you roll a die or several dice, and they give you a binary, does the thing I'm trying succeed or not result? And so your action economy is very limited. And some games allow you to like break that up. Like White Wolf famously lets you do flurries where you can have multiple, sets. And that one generally is taking your pool and subdividing it. But this is kind of different. In this one, you have a pool of dice starting off with, and when you roll them, you match all the like facings together and make sets. And the number of dice in a set is the tens column, and the number on top of it is the ones column. So like you have 3 dice reading 4, that's a 34. You have 2 dice reading 1, that's a 21. A single dice reading 9, that's a 19. And that kind of, when you roll at the start of the turn, you don't know how many sets you're going to have, but the number of sets is your number of actions, or proactive actions rather. So like it really does feel like a kung fu game, because like you have like this, the beginning of the turn is like this opportunity, and then you don't really know precisely all the stuff you're going to be able to do and how that's going to interact with your kung fu moves, your techniques, or like, and you have to like respond to the evolving paradigm as your opponents launch attacks at you. You'll need to use those to defend. So it really does feel like you're throwing this furious set of like punches and kicks and like, little, kung fu fireballs like in Street Fighter. So the core system is really, really fascinating. And
it sounds fascinating. Have you done any live plays on YouTube that people could watch?
Oh yeah, no,
right?
Yeah, actually, Mildred the Monk did a Cloister of the Dice where I got to run the free intro adventure, Blood from God's Eye, for them. We only got, I think, 2 scenes in, but man, it was really, really good.
Cool.
It's like a 4-hour let's play. So if you wanna sit down and listen to us cut up for 4 solid hours, Cloister of the Dice.
Mildred, yeah.
Let me see. So I did that one. That was like, I think that's the biggest one I've ever done. Aside from that, geez, I've done a bunch of stuff in my Discord, the Fistiverse. I don't know if we recorded any of it though. Where just like I run people through different scenarios. There's been a lot of play testing because it's fun to play. So like the cool thing about being a game designer for a game that you actually love is that when you are just playing like a game with your friends, you're also getting data, right? And you can use that to refine the mechanics, which is cool.
Yes.
So totally 2 birds, 1 stone.
As a fellow game designer.
Yeah, see,
Cool. So now you mentioned a lot of big words. So you're like me, you use big words.
Oh God, did I? I'm sorry. I don't try to.
But you also mentioned a lot of Asian culture things, and in the Asian appropriation warning sign here. What is your connection to that aspect of that culture? And are you Chinese, Asian? Are you related to Asian?
No, not even slightly. I grew up watching.
Come after you for cultural appropriation?
I think Daniel Kwan tried to like tut me on Twitter when I was first kickstarting the game, but like honestly, I think that's it. Because I mean, like I'm friends with guys like CJ Long, the Cloudbreaker Alliance guy. So like I don't know. I feel like if they're not saying something about the way I'm using these cultures, I'm really playful with culture in the game. Like it's not just East Asian cultures; it's all over the damn map. Like I've got the generous white blade is one of the artifacts in the book, and that's I think it's a Welsh myth weapon. It's basically a sword that like bursts into flame whenever you draw it. And my artist, who is Filipino, drew it as a jian, which is a Chinese straight sword. And it looks great. And like, what a eclectic mix of different cultural influence, right? But like, it's fun. This is no one's coming to my idiot punch game for remedial, culture
Idiot.
lessons. Like, this is it's about having fun and punching things. Like,
Yes. Far too many people have seemed to have forgotten how fun it is.
yeah, and like it's not like I'm disrespecting. I'm not trying to disrespect any of these cultures. I'm enthusiastic about them. Like my introduction to this
exciting
stuff.
to see. Yeah, that's always
Well,
exciting
yeah,
to see.
exactly.
Far too
Like
many people have become jaded, I think, especially after the last couple of years. So it's always nice to stumble across somebody who's still excited about the hobby and looking at it
yeah.
from a positive point of view instead of a negative point of view.
Well, I mean, like, it's not like there's no cultural grievance that could ever be lodged ever, but I mean, like, I think that we need to kind of step back and realize that, ma'am, this is a Wendy's. Like, look at this. This is based on Fist of the North Star. It's not actually based on the Dao Do Chang or like, what was the other one that was a huge inspiration for this one? It wasn't the Ramada. It was, oh, damn it. It stuck in my head with so much mythology. I can't remember which particular one. Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita was what a huge inspiration for this. But I mean, like, you're supposed to draw inspiration from culture. That's what it's there for. I love again, I didn't ask for Kazuki to draw that little smiley face on that guy, but I think it's great.
Yeah, it does sort of fit.
Like there's something wonderfully like, this is like a punk aesthetic to the whole game, which is really a lot of fun. Also, I think he put a dirigible in the background of that one. No, several dirigibles. Look at him. I sent him an image of Fritz Lang's Metropolis, and I'm like, look, I need you to do your version of this for Babel Kiminar. And I got to tell you, I think he nailed it.
Yeah, your artist is amazing, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, Kazuki David. He is hireable, by the way. I didn't.
Oh
just
well,
choose
yeah.
him, so.
Send us his link, and we'll post it when I, edit this.
Oh yeah, good man. Yeah, because he deserves more work than I give him. Although I'm giving him a lot of work recently because Kickstarter, right?
Yeah, you got to get that at Kickstarter. My artists are both pretty lazy, so I'm lucky if I get one piece a year.
Oh, dude, yeah, no, his output is unreal. I can get, I think, up to about 4 really high quality pieces a month if I really push him.
Oh,
and he loves the work. Like,
if he's got a link or a website, please feel free to post it or send it to me, and I'll post it.
Yeah, absolutely. That guy, I kind of want to get him out of my price range. Like, I'd really like to see him take off because he's a fantastic artist. He's got this wonderfully detailed old school style, and he's just got a great eye for it. Like, look at that jacket. Look at those, look at the little spikes on it.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of detail, and it's the kind of black and white I like. It's the classic black and white, not this art punk, Mark Borg black ink killing black and white. But it's
that's a little bit inky for me too. I concur. It's not terrible art or anything. It's just
no,
it's not quite.
Because I would hate to ever try and print it out.
Yeah, there it is. Look at that freaking awesome robot nation. Yeah, he just drew that. That's draft 2. He actually drew me one that was similar to that, and I was like, "Can you make it look more horrible?" And he's like, "You got it, boss." So he redrew it from scratch to make it look even cooler. That's a heck of an artist right there.
Now, you're like the third person I've interviewed this year doing post-Holocaust, Riff's Holocaust. Why do you feel the genre is taken off so much recently? And do you see any connection between yours? Because there's definitely some, Warp World Torg Riffs feel here. And post-apocalypse seems to be a thing. I've got a post-apocalypse game that just came out as well. So why now? And why do you think that? Was that a conscious choice or subconscious?
Well, I mean, for me, I was aping the Fist of the North Star setting, which is itself aping the Mad Max setting. And I'm a huge fan of those movies too. I think there's a sort of thing in Mad Max, especially the very first one, The Road Warrior, where it's not so much about the apocalypse exactly. It's just kind of about how the boundaries and bonds that make a society function can just sort of dissolve one day. how the upheld illusion of like societal cooperation is it isn't real in any like tangible sense. And so if the certain tipping point of enough people just stop believing in it, it just becomes this like our world descends into this strange, different, and almost unrecognizably barbaric one.
Yeah.
And so and like that's kind of what Fist of the North Star is about too. Like Kenshiro as a hero wanders around and he himself has a code of ethics, but like the world around him, like every time he encounters someone, even people that used to be his friends, they're like, no, 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 no. The world's different now, Ken. This kind of heroism just doesn't work anymore. And the philosophy that's at the core of that is really fascinating to think about, and the way he interacts with things is interesting to think about. You know, 'cause
Yeah.
it's a violent anime. Like it's kind of like the over the topness of the violence is like part of the appeal of it. But like it's interesting because Ken's seen as a heroic character, but he's from a clan of like hyper violent assassins. So that's there's a lot of weird stuff like that where it really makes you pause and like contemplate what it is you're looking at. So is there like a similar zeitgeist now to the world that made like Mad Max and Fist of the North Star? I think so. I think that we're having some pretty big societal shakeups, especially this last year.
Yeah.
The paradigm is shifting, as they say, for better or worse. It's changing.
Yeah.
And I think that we tell each other post-apocalypse stories because at the end of it, there's a sort of hopefulness to it, where it's like, yeah, the world could fall apart, but we'll find a way. We'll adapt.
Hopefully we'll find a
We'll
way.
survive. Well, I mean, that's kind of the thing about the post-apocalypse, and they all kind of have that in common. Everything from like this to Fallout. To, I think you mentioned Rifts. There's a certain like
Walking Dead.
yeah. There's a sort of a hopefulness at the core of it. Like, how does humanity endure in these extreme circumstances?
Yes.
That's the kind of the energy that I like to bring to it. And the characters in Lone Wolf Fist are largely heroes. I mean, not the Hell guys, obviously they're bad guys. But I mean, you got to have good villains too.
Yeah. So this is game number 2 from you. What are your plans?
This is a supplement for game number 1. So
well, it's this expansion number 1 for Tangshin.
Yeah.
What are your plans for the future? We're
Oh,
gonna see
God. The next one is a Shansha supplement, where I'm going to go out into outer space, and you're going to be able to punch whole planets to death. So it's going to be
Cool.
very, very, very big. I'm kind of okay. So I design games that are in like the classic vein of like Dungeons and Dragons. I think there's a lot of like what's a good term for this? Like continuity, and they're kind of like hex map, dungeon map style design. There's certain like consequentiality and a certain groundedness to all of it. Even though you can like throw fireballs and what have you, there's still some sort of gravity to the whole thing. And even like if you go back, earlier into the D&D design, they eventually went to deities and demigods and things like that. Like your character could become a god, but they designed it in steps. Like you started as some Pudsmack adventure, then you became like a king, and then eventually there was this whole other like Valhalla-esque like stuff that you could do in these like really crazy adventures. I'm kind of trying to do the same thing. So step 1 was post-apocalyptic, like kung fu superheroes, and then step 2 is like this kind of like mythological level stuff where like you could have like the powers of hell and that sort of thing. And then step 3 is going to be, okay, now you can become immortal and like fist fight an entire planet to death. So you got to build it up.
Awesome. It sounds amazing. Yeah. I'll have to post those links to everything. So you're in Alaska, correct?
Yes, I am. It is very cold. Even today, where it's reasonably warm, it's cold.
So you're up there with polar bears and Santa. What is
Yes.
gaming like in Alaska? I always like to ask this question of people who are from other states and other countries. The progression of the hobby and what the hobby is like there as opposed to here in California. Because I have one very view of how my upbringing through the hobby was, and a lot of people are like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So what is gaming like up there with the polar bears and Santa?
Well, it's useful. Alaska in general is kind of like firewalled in terms of like your social circle. Like it's kind of similar to Canada in that regard, where like you'll go to someone's house and like you'll do stuff in their house. So if you have a circle of close friends, you'll have the one that has the best table, and that's whose house you go to game. Generally, it's good to have good friends in a place like this where the environment is so very hostile. So I highly recommend that if you're going to game up here. I will say the gaming scene is pretty good up here. Like this is a place that's really friendly to small businesses. So like for example, Bosco's, which is the Anchorage location, like for friendly local gaming, they are amazingly well staffed and well stocked, and they've been in business for a while. Right now, as I recall, they're doing a thing where they're doing like an outreach with the local library, the Lussick Library, where like every month there's like this big open table where you can like just come and learn how to play D&D. I think they're doing 5th ed right now. I game master there sometimes. I'm not a huge 5e fan, but like, I mean, role playing is role playing, right?
Exactly. Oh my God, so many people are gonna hate you for saying that.
I mean, it's not like it's evil, It's
no,
just
but
D&D.
apparently it's
It's weirdly polarizing. It's weird.
Yes, it has become really polarizing for somebody who like me, who is on the, it's just still a stupid little game about goblins with sticks.
Game about goblins.
That earns you. So no, I mean the Bro SR, the old school, those guys will just go after you for saying role playing. So me, I totally agree. Role playing is role playing. It's a stupid game about elves with sticks, or in your case, martial artists with sticks.
Yep. As long as they got sticks, it's a role playing game.
It's supposed to be silly fun, but
precisely. Well, and like what an anodyne edition for everybody to war over. Like 4th edition was a spicy edition, but 5th edition, it's just kind of D&D.
Yeah, it's as close to Gygaxian D&D as Wizards will make, at least because now they're disowning for 5e for 6e, but yeah, that's the topic for a whole separate thing.
Yeah, I feel like we could go on about that for a long time, but let's not.
I do that every Wednesday.
Well, tune in, folks.
So if you ever want to come on my Wizards of the Coast thing on Wednesdays,
I'll have plenty to say. Like I'm not a huge fan of Hasbro in general, but I don't really have a complaint with 5e. Maybe there's a little bit much HP bloat, I guess. That's about it.
Yeah,
that's it's my spiciest take.
RP is bigger there, or mini games? Because I know a lot of places that have the more below whatever weather, like Europe, they tend to really get into the Warhammer style.
Oh yeah, where you're doing like
inside for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, and
I found that the biggest consumers of like the heavy mini stuff is like if you have a military base nearby, like that's a thing that they really love to do because it's the thing you can spend a lot of money on, and like you get something like kind of like a fun toy, and it's sort of like the equivalent of building model trains, I guess. It's one of those kind of hobbies. I wouldn't say it's huge here. Mostly I just see people just like doing theater of the mind stuff. I mean, that's my preferred style too. So maybe there's a bias there. But yeah, I mostly see what's running it.
I like the toys, but
well, toys are great, right? But like, there's an inherent limiting factor to the toys as well, because like you can't do in a square grid what you could just do descriptively. There's a certain firmness to it that doesn't allow for that permeable membrane of the imagination. So I'm a big theater of the mind dude because I want those cool descriptions.
Listen to all the big words coming out of this guy's mouth. I gotta dust off my big words dictionary.
I'm not doing that on purpose. I swear to God, that's just how I talk.
You have nothing else to do in Alaska but read books. I understand.
I'm a bibliophile, man. I love
race the Iditarod and fight off polar bears. So you play in public. That's cool. We don't have that here in Ventura anymore, unfortunately, sadly.
That's too bad.
So since we'll wrap it up, what is your craziest role-playing story? Because we all know mine. God. And what's the story that you tell like every year that makes people break out in laughter or is just like so unbelievably tragic? What's your craziest story so far?
Okay, so probably the most interesting character that ever got ran in any one of my games. I was doing a Sword and Planet game, OSR style, and my then wife played a character that was very akin to Lobo from the DC Comics universe.
Yes.
All of her exploits in character were unbelievably funny. Like at one point, they saved a bunch of roach people from extermination, and as reward, he wanted to become the consort of the queen. And you must understand, these are roach people. So there was nothing sexy about these creatures. Like they were literally giant roach monsters. And so yeah, like that was one of the memorable occasions where he inadvertently sired a whole race of like half Sarnian, half roach people that were like roaches except Elvis. So that's one thing. Another thing is he got so drunk at one point that he became the high priest of a chaos god. And every once in a while, the blessing he got from that was if he ate something, he would get its superpowers. And he ate something that gave him the power to just swallow anything. So at one point, to smuggle this really important halfling across this kingdom, he just swallowed them and just had them in his belly. So he looked like a big, fat, like pot-bellied version of himself, while the horrified halfling just huddled in terror inside of his gullet for like a solid week of traveling. Oh God. Like literally every single thing. The first session with that character, they came across a basilisk. It was old school style, right? So we were just hex crawling. And so everyone else is like getting turned to stone or fleeing or doing something wise. So what this dude does is he leaps on top of it and Bronco busts it. And then he argues with me that his sword is polished to a mirror shine. And so therefore he should be able to hold that in front of the basilisk's eyes and make it turn itself into stone with the reflective surface. And at the time we were using the Adventure Conquer King system. So I was like, okay, you know what? I will be convinced that your sword can do that if you show me in the art for your character class, the anti-paladin, where that's the case. And sure enough, he pulled up the anti-paladin, opened it up, and she was like, see, that sword's onyx. It's clearly reflective. So yeah, like literally everything that Lobo did was like that. So that's anytime I need a chestnut, I pull out one of those stories.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks, Joel, for joining us on the OGGM Adventures, taking time out of your day there. I mean, we know you're secretly an elf for Santa, but that's okay. Because what else do people do in Alaska or work for Amazon?
We
good luck with your Kickstarter and whatever you have next. I look forward to finding out more about your game. This sounds like the kind of game I'd love playing. So if you're ever doing any more open play tests, please send me an invite, and do remember to send me the information for that artist so we can get Suzuki more friends. Do you have anything else you want to say before we let you go?
Give me your money, scrubs. You'll get a really cool game in response.
All right. The link to the Kickstarter is down below, and the link to his drive-through is down below. And once again, thanks, Joel, for taking time out from working for Santa. And we will now let you go back to your snowbound life. Thank you, each and every one of you, for joining me again today on the OGGM Adventures. We'll be back with my regularly scheduled stupidity at another time. Till then, see ya.
City light, shadow dreams. Melt a giant fucking scream.